Hi guys, how's it going? And if you're new, hi, my name is Snowy. So, this video is about shadow work and why it's important to visit the dark side. So, if you're new to spirituality or the spiritual path, I'm sure that you've come across the term shadow work before. But let me just go ahead and give you my personal interpretation of what that means. So, shadow work would be um, everybody has traits that we would all deem undesirable for our own selves, right? Things that we do that we're not really quite fond of. Um, yeah, a lot of times instead of actually thinking about these traits or habits, we would just kind of rather avoid them and just ignore them altogether. So, this is the dark side, we'll say, and shadow work would be intentionally focusing on aspects of yourself that are being affected by these darker natures that you're not fond of, and really um, having a conscious effort of going and intentionally changing um, your mindset and changing the way of being, and um, allowing yourself to heal in that particular aspect in order to continue along your journey and to help you grow. Now, when it comes to shadow work, um, a lot of times people may avoid uh, this side of themselves. They might avoid actually going and focusing on, um, and not necessarily focusing, they might have a hard time spending time alone um, with their own selves, with their own thoughts, with their own feelings and emotions. And so, a lot of times, in order to avoid experiencing that or to avoid feeling that those range of emotions, people would rather immerse themselves in communities or, um, with a group of friends, or like, on the phone or connecting on social media. I'm not saying any of these things are bad, and just giving examples of ways that people might avoid shadow work, avoid spending time by themselves, avoid, um, yeah, avoid the time with the dark side. Also, hence the mood for the video. It's a little bit darker, and I thought it was kind of cool. Don't judge me. Anyway, so as I was saying, a lot of times people will avoid um, their darker aspects or avoid these less desired facets of themselves. And escapism is the number one way of dealing with that, by the examples that I just mentioned, as far as like hanging out with people constantly, or being in a constantly being immersed in an activity, or whatever the case might be, really avoiding alone time with oneself. So, um, why? Why is it important that we focus on the shadow work, or that we even bother going there? Why don't we continue to suppress these things? So glad you guys asked. So, when it comes to the self-discovery journey, it's a constant track of emotions, of traumas, of experiences, of circumstances, situations, right? But it's about growth. And you can't grow if you're not willing to focus on the soil or focus on fertilizing the soil, right? So it's like you can't expect to reap any fruit if you don't water the soil. It, like, it's a part of the process. So in order to, because throughout life, we will constantly and continually experience things that will test us. The universe is constantly testing us, and it's giving us opportunities to prove just how much we've learned, just how far have we come along the path, right? So you will constantly experience things that will test your patience, test your fucking sanity, you know? It's all a part of the journey, right? Now, oftentimes these things that resurface or these lessons that come back up, they are rooted in the shadow self, the darker self, the soul, the deeper aspect of ourselves. And again, unless we take the time to learn how to work with these things, or we take the time to understand how these traits even came to be, until we take the time to look at these things and to be truthful with ourselves and to have an open mind and an open heart towards them, well, we're never really going to be able to get past that level. You'll reach a plateau in that aspect of your journey, and you won't be able to move forward until you take the time to work on these things. Many people experience trauma, and they carry these traumas throughout their lives. It's easy to be triggered at any point in your life with whatever said trauma is. So with this example, if you know you have a trigger and you know that this is something that triggers you, well then it only makes sense that you would best equip yourself for this situation should it arise, right? Like if you are a highly allergic individual, you likely have an EpiPen nearby, right? So if you're diabetic, you have your insulin within vicinity. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, if you know that these are things that affect you and they can create some sense of negative emotions or feelings or thoughts, then you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your self-discovery journey to take the time to dissect these things, to work on them, to lessen the effect of that trigger, right? So, basically, simply put, this is what shadow work is. It's just focusing on these darker aspects of yourself, focusing on these less desirable traits that we all have, and making the conscious decision to change them. But first, it all starts with mindset. So, make the decision for positive growth. Make the choice to do what's necessary, and don't be afraid to do the work. Don't be afraid to visit those facets and those sides of yourself. They're absolutely beautiful, and without these dark facets, well then how could you appreciate the brighter ones, right? So with all things, life is about balance, and you can't appreciate one without accepting and appreciating the other. So I hope that this has been of some assistance, and as always, it is my absolute honor to serve you. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. If you're interested in any of the services I offer, check the link below. It's my honor to serve you.